What is so important about colour, Eddie?
It makes reality relevant. It makes experience relevant. If we see a coloured image, we never forget it. And it can be described in a million words, and we will never get that. Yeah. But if we see a coloured image of it,
it says it.
It's got it all in one. It has an undeniable truth, and it makes the living experience relevant, and that is what colour does for me.
What colours are in light?
What light presents itself as white. Now, Isaac Newton did a famous experiment in the late 17th century where he directed the white light through a prism, and then this was by a process of refraction. This was split into 7 colours, going from yellow through to indigo. Okay. What he did then, in order to make a complete circle of colours, he then added, I think it was purple, which doesn't really exist, I think, and this made a complete colour circle, what we know as a colour circle. What he did then, after splitting these colours from white light, he then passed them through another prism, which reconstructed them back into white light, and therefore demonstrated the rainbow nature of colour. Now the difference between that's what you call physical light. Yeah, the difference between that and paint is that paint is reflective.
Yeah.
And it's what's called subtractive. In other words, the more colour you add to something, the surface of a canvas, the darker it will go. Whereas with physical light, the more the colours you put together, it approaches white light. So that was demonstrated.
At the other end of the spectrum is black, right? But where's black? Is
well,
there no black light?
No, there's no black light. Black is the absence of light completely. But in pigment, in colours, black has a presence, which you can see in paintings. If you have a black background and put a yellow square on it, the yellow square will jump forward, and the black will assume a presence as a background. Yeah, this certainly isn't the case in physics. Black is the absence of colour.
So could you explain a bit more about when light hits paint?
When light strikes a colour, like your shirt, which is showing as green or light green, all the other colours are absorbed, and that is reflected. Okay.
So only one colour is seen from the spectrum.
So only one colour is reflected back to it.
Oh, I see.
If that's in white light. If it's a coloured light, a different thing happens. If you shone an orange light on a Picasso blue period picture, it would reflect back as black, because there is no blue in the orange light in order to reflect back.
How did Rembrandt achieve his lighting effect?
First of all, he set up often theatre boxes. Yeah, and Tintoretto, he derived this from Tintoretto. What Tintoretto did was he created a theatre, a small theatre, with characters hanging from wires, almost like Superman or something. He had gods and what have you. And he had apertures cut in the theatre, sides of the theatre box, and shone light through them, by means of candles and lanterns and stuff like that. The distribution of shadows was then copied. The figures are often painted flesh colour or something like that, and they were copied. Rembrandt used this as well when constructing these scenarios, of suspended figures or whatever, or people dressed in turbans and in oriental settings. Yeah. They were essentially constructed as a theatrical composition, and lit in certain ways, and then painted like that.
What would you use white for?
As an underpaint, to illuminate blue in the sky, to paint tints, flesh tints particularly, to structure the foreground and background of the painting, and to basically to lighten anything with overlays in washes that I think is too dark, in order to then add further colour. Okay, so white becomes both a structure and an adjustment medium for me. I think it was Pissarro who told Matisse that light is not white. I think Matisse was starting to paint with white when he was trying to paint light. But Pissarro said you paint every other colour except white in order to give the feeling of white light.
Yellow was often used to describe cowards. Do you think that's a correct description?
No, that's a recent connotation. I think that comes from, I think, the 19th century, and the four feathers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of Puritanism type of thing. I think that the connotation of that is imperial, and I mean, yellow, as we talked about it, in Renaissance times, yellow was meant to denote the intellect, you know, the light of reason.
Yeah.
Because yellow is the nearest we have to white light, is a kind of solid white, a solid light, yeah?
Mm.
And it's always been used that way, which is a long way from, I mean, yellow, we talked about yellow before. I mean, yellow was used in Jericho's paintings of the insane asylums. Yellow was used with a sickly black.
He painted the insane.
Yeah, he painted this art, and he created this atmosphere of disturbance by these strange, sickly yellows in relation to these greeny bracks, yeah, of the inmates, and this disturbing coloration resulted in it. And yellow is always linked with light, but you can have a dark yellow, and which is almost a paradox, you know. And it's difficult to mix. You have to mix the grey first, then add the yellow to it. Because if you mix black and white with yellow, it'll shoot off to olive green. So it has to be painting dark yellow. Yeah. It's like painting dark light. It requires a procedure where you pre-mix the right tone in grey and then add the yellow to that and then paint it. So yellow is a tricky one. And also yellow is the quickest colour to discolour. It needs only a little touches. I think Kandinsky mentioned this. It's the colour that's the most fugitive. You've only got to add a small amount of black or any colour, and it will change its character immediately. Whereas the green can go through innumerable changes and remain green, and red is similar, you know, and blue is similar to that, you know.
What would you use black for?
Black. I would use black as a ground in order to place other colours on. I would use black to make any colour shade down to any deep hue I wanted to use. I would use Bible black to paint death. I would use black as a mounting for gold to make it shine.
Right, thanks Eddie.
Okay.